and welcome to Totally Got Out of Bed, a podcast to support you as you cope with the loss of a loved one to suicide. I'm Nora Flum, and I lost my son Eric to suicide on January 3rd, 2018.
And I'm Tony Plant, and I lost my daughter Anna to suicide on January 30th of 2016. Through this podcast, we hope that by sharing our stories with you, we'll be of some help to others on a similar path. We intend for this to be descriptive and not prescriptive, meaning that we're not experts and we're not trying to tell you what to do. We just want to tell you what worked for us and what didn't work for us. Everyone's experience is different, and everyone's grief is different. No matter what brings you to our podcast, welcome to the club. We're sorry you're here.
In this episode, we're continuing on our theme of how to get through that first year, or how we got through the first year. And this one is going to be focused on how we continued to feel connected to our loved ones who are gone. I gotta tell you, after that first shock, after that first trauma is over, after the bomb explodes and you hear the news of the trauma, after that's over and reality starts to sink in, that's when it gets difficult. I mean, it's always difficult, but that's when it gets a matter of endurance. I, for one, started to feel Eric's absence in hundreds of different ways on a regular basis. Eric had moved out of our house when he went off to college years before he died, so I was already used to daily life without him. But just in a regular day, I would often text him or check in with him, and that urge to reach out to him did not go away when he died. As an example, Eric was a news junkie, and we'd often text or chat about something that was going on in the world, especially politics. So every time I'd hear an interesting story or see an interesting article, the urge to call or text Eric would come back, and I'd experience the grief all over again. It was terrible at first because the grief was raw and renewed every single time. But eventually there came a time when those urges to contact him became less raw and more nostalgic. I think it happened to my husband first. I remember his telling me that he could think about Eric and be at peace and enjoy the memory, but it took a long time for me.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. It took a long time for me as well. And, as you were saying that, I started thinking, I also, because Anna was still in school, she was 15. So, and we had struggled for a few years before she had, and therefore I had. But after she died, then what would happen is I would think, what would I normally be doing on a day like this? That thought would just come into my mind. And it was a lot of times connected with some sort of a struggle she was having. So not only was I missing her, but I also had this little bit of guilt for almost the relief that that struggle wasn't there. So that will be something maybe we can address in another episode because it plays deeply into the guilt that sometimes we feel. But that came up as you were talking about the day to day. But I think with all areas of grief, of course, staying connected to our people isn't the same for any one of us. And I know some people have gone to mediums and they've connected with them in that way. And I never really had the desire to do that. But for the people that do, I think it's great. And that's definitely what they should do. But for me, I found more comfort in like writing about her and just sitting down and being, thoughtful about her or talking about her. And, because it's not like she was ever far from my mind. So the permission to be able to discuss her and write about her was really important for me. And so in order to, I don't know, just for me, I like to like make things visible. So we now, and have ever since she died, have a number of items around our house that keep her very top of mind and close. So shortly after she died, I bought some garden ornament little ball things that are red. So we still have those in our yard. And they always remind me of her. And then we received a beautiful wind chime that is engraved with her birthday and death day. And it's red, of course. So anytime you walk in front of our house, you hear her in that wind chime. And I find that comforting as well. And we received an outdoor bench that had her name on it. So I look out the window and see that every day. And it keeps her close. And of course, we have red high tops everywhere. If you've been listening all along, you know she wore red high tops frequently. So we have a nice wall hanging that someone gave us in the kitchen. The ornament I discussed a few episodes ago was red high tops. And of course, I have actual red high tops in my closet. And we have a red ornament of the tattoo that Anna always wanted to get the one with a butterfly and a semicolon. And so you walk into her house and there's really no way you could forget about her here in our house.
Well, I think it's natural to look for signs and symbols, and for you, the red high tops were important. We feel the absence of their presence so acutely, and we look for anything that we can take to mean that they haven't abandoned us completely. I know
Hmm.
for some people, dragonflies are the symbol for a person that they're grieving. And I'm going to take a minute to deviate from our story to talk about a friend here for a minute. I have a friend who, after the loss of her son to cancer, she received a beautiful card with a dragonfly story, and it meant so much to her. And that story goes like this. In the bottom of an old pond lived some grubs who could not understand why none of their group ever came back after crawling up the stems of the lilies to the top of the water. They promised each other that the next time one was called to make the upward climb, that one grub would return and tell what had happened to him. Soon, one of them felt an urgent impulse to seek the surface. He rested himself on the top of a lily pad and went through a glorious transformation, which made him a dragonfly with beautiful wings. In vain he tried to keep his promise. Flying back and forth over the pond, he peered down at his friends below. Then he realized that even if they could see him, they would not recognize such a radiant creature as one of their number. The fact that we cannot see our friends or communicate with them after the transformation, which we call death, is no proof that they cease to exist. That story is written by Walter Dudley Cavert. The story meant so much to my friend that she and the young girl who sent it to her started a nonprofit called the Dragonfly Project almost 20 years ago now. It's a beautiful endeavor. The organization sends cards and dragonfly keychains to people who are grieving, usually about 3 to 6 months after the loss. I got one and it was very meaningful to me. So, dragonflies are some symbol for some people, but for me, my connection with Eric was owls. He loved owls. And so it's owls. And sometimes when I'm out walking before dawn because I can't sleep, or I'm sitting on my porch after dark because I can't sleep, I hear an owl, and it always makes me think that it might be Eric saying hello. And a few times a picture of an owl will show up on my Facebook feed, and it always brings me comfort. And I remember once there was a video that showed a baby owl playing in the water, and it reminded me how much Eric as a child used to love to play in the water. And I hadn't thought about that memory in such a long time. And the memory brought me joy. And probably the owl image that means the most to me came when I was shopping for a birthday card for a friend. It happened to be a particularly tough grief day, I remember. My grief baby was screaming for attention, and I was having a really tough time. And as I was looking at birthday cards, I saw a card with an owl on it. And on the front of the card, it said, "Enjoy your day." And it hit me. It was as if Eric was telling me to stop it. Stop letting the grief get in the way, and stop letting despair drive my heart and my mind. It felt less like a greeting and more like a command. Enjoy your day. That might have been the first time I realized that I had some agency in my grief. I could choose joy in spite of grief. The grief is still there, of course, and I need to tend to it, but I can choose to enjoy my day. It wasn't a betrayal of my son's life, it was a way of living in a way to honor him. So I bought 2 copies of that card. One I sent to my friend, and one I keep in a frame on my desk at school, right along with your little thing that you made, Tony, that says "totally got out of bed." So it's my
Hmm.
little energy uh, icon there that keeps me going.
That's a great story. So it's like anything that you end up seeing and remembering in that way is just so it stays with you forever. And I think that that's just such a great way if you're able to just sort of see and take in what's around you and kind of I don't know. I remember some of the old sayings that I've heard are like get out of yourself instead of just like thinking about the grief. And you are out there trying to just move on with your day and find a birthday card for a friend, and he was able to find you. And I find that so comforting to know that happens, and it happens to me too, of course. And also, by the way, I got one of those dragonfly cards and keychains too, and I think that's just so cool that that came from your friend. I think that's great. Another thing that keeps me close to her is my tattoo, and I do hear a lot of people that are in our club talk about getting tattoos, and The reason I got one is that Anna had always wanted 10 tattoos, and she was frequently drawing pictures of what she wanted those to look like. And I always told her that I would never get a tattoo except if something had happened to one of my kids. And then there it was. Something did happen to one of my kids, and I could just hear her in heaven saying, "Mom, you promised." So I got a tattoo just a few months later after she died. It's on my wrist and it simply says her name, Anna, with a semicolon after it. And it helps me remember that her story isn't over yet, that we all need to continue talking about mental health and suicide prevention and just to keep her spirit alive. Since then, her brother also got a tattoo of the word dream written in her handwriting. She had written him a sweet note a while back and he had saved it. And from that note, he took the word dream and got it tattooed on his wrist. And quite a few of her friends have gotten butterfly semicolon tattoos as well. In addition, her cousin and her best friends got both got tattoos of the words "I love you" written in Anna's handwriting and separate cards that she had given to each of them separately, and they both got them on their sides. And they both got them shortly after high school graduation, and neither of them knew it. And it was like all of a sudden I realized that someone had posted on their Instagram account, "Oh, I just got this tattoo in Anna's handwriting." And then the other one had done the same thing. And I was like, "Did you guys know you did this at the same time?" And they didn't. They didn't know. And to me, that's just too weird for Anna to not have had a hand in that.
I love that story that they got separate tattoos of the same thing at almost the same time and didn't know that the other had done that.
Yeah, and in the same place on their side.
That's
So
amazing.
so strange.
Yeah. So our son John and most of his cousins also got tattoos. They planned it, they coordinated it. They told me about it the night of the funeral. They said that they decided to get Eric's name in Norwegian, ancient Norwegian letters, ancient Norwegian runes. And so, yeah, they each chose the place that they were going to get it, but yeah, they've all got them. And I'll talk about the significance of the labyrinth in our next episode, but two of Eric's friends also got labyrinth tattoos. For some reason, I don't feel any need to have ink embedded into my skin, so I just haven't gotten one. They're just not for me.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it because I was the same way. And like I said, had I not told her that, I never would have done it. But I could just hear that feisty little voice coming from heaven yelling at me, "Mom, you promised." So otherwise, I wouldn't have done it either. Another thing that I do, though, is to keep her alive is to walk in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's out of the Darkness walk. And we've done the walks every year since she died. I know I've talked about this before, but it's really a way that, it takes up more time than just the one day because of course you're fundraising and you're talking about it and you're planning for it and all that stuff. But we walk as Team Anna and we usually have a good sized crowd with us and we have these gray "Her Story Isn't Over Yet" t-shirts and we wear smiley face buttons and we wear red. And someone always brings smiley face balloons, and we bring our dogs, and they have these cute red bandanas that say Anna on them, and we take pictures. And sometimes we cry, even still, but we always feel closer to her, and we always feel like we're doing something for the cause and something that will raise money to help fight this awful thing called suicide.
Yeah, your immediate and constant activism regarding suicide awareness and prevention is admirable. It's something I really respect and admire. I did not feel the same, especially at first. I did participate this year all by myself in the walk, raised some money, and I know Eric's friends donated and my family donated. But yeah, it's not something that I've really been active about. And I think I always knew that at some point I would feel differently, that I'd want to get involved in a more active way, that I would want to do my part to use our story to help people. But I didn't have any idea what that would look like. I wasn't ready to do anything more public than sharing a quote about grief or pictures of Eric on Facebook, especially at first.
Yeah. And that how it is, that is how it is for so many people. And it's just perfect. However it is for you, it's just the perfect way to do it. And I know I've said this before, but for me, we just really buy everything that's red. It's like crazy weird. So Um, I just can't even tell you everything I buy that's red. I have a red phone case. I have a red phone. I have red reading glasses, red sunglasses, a red purse, a red bathrobe, red sweaters, scarves, socks, gloves. I have red high tops, red flannels, red Birkenstocks. I have red t-shirts, red pants and knives and cutting boards and coffee mugs and blankets. And every time can buy something that's red, I do. And what that leads to is just every time you're going in to get dressed and I think of her because I think, "Oh, I'm gonna wear red today. I'm just feeling like an Anna day." So, to me, it tells more in the bigger picture for me. It helps me more just to know that I always have some way of honoring her every single day. And other than the red, there's also the smiley face stuff. And we have smiley face spatulas, for heaven's sakes, and smiley face t-shirts and smiley face pins on every purse and backpack that I own. And as a matter of fact, last week my son texted from New York and he said he was painting some walls in his apartment and he found a yellow paint that was called smiley face yellow. So, quote, of course I had to get that. And then there's the semicolon items like the jewelry and the clothing and the artwork. And it's like I just can't get enough. And no amount of things like this would be too much of anything that says Anna.
I love that smiley face yellow paint, and that your son would text you
Hmm.
and let you know that he's thinking that too. And I think
Hmm.
that's beautiful. For us, it's purple. I mentioned owls before, but also purple. Eric's favorite color was purple. And I remember that one of the first times I feel like we got a physical sign from Eric was when we were finished cleaning his condo to get it ready to sell. We had taken everything out, everything was gone. We had swept, mopped, wiped, sanitized. The place was clean. And just as we were getting ready to leave, my husband bent down and picked up a purple piece of feathered fluff from the middle of the floor. He turned to me, and it felt like Eric had just given us something concrete to hold on to. He had given us a playful sign that he was okay and that he was appreciating and loving us as we were taking care of him in that way.
That is exactly so perfect an explanation of ways to look and find our loved ones looking out for us. You know, it's in the everyday things that happen. I know a lot of people who have lost loved ones look out for cardinals as well. And anytime a cardinal comes to our window, we all recognize that Anna's there. And we stop and talk about how happy we are to see her. And sometimes we say, "Hi, Anna," because there's no doubt in my mind that she plays a part in those cardinals appearing. And my favorite cardinal story was the first year we moved into our new house. So it was a year or so after Anna died. And Leo was at school in New York. And of course, he came home for Christmas. Now, we'd moved in here on December 1st. So we hadn't seen any cardinals at all the whole month. And Leo got home on a Friday night, and I'm thinking it was the 22nd. And when we woke up on the following morning, he came into the kitchen for breakfast. And sure enough, our first cardinal was visiting us in our new house. It was as if Anna had known that this house would not be a home until Leo got there. It was just very comforting moment and very sweet that we were all together then.
Oh, that's just beautiful. The idea that it's a home and your Anna came to visit you and just to bless your experience together sitting around at breakfast. I love that story. Well, signs and symbols, dragonflies, owls, cardinals, red, purple, semicolons, whatever signs and symbols that we recognize as our attempts or as our loved ones' attempts to greet us, to take care of us, to be with us. They bring us comfort, they bring us hope, they bring us a sense that we are not alone and that, again, their stories are not over yet. And with that, it's time to bring the episode to a close. As always, if you or someone you know is in immediate danger of suicide, please call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room, or call 1-800-273-TALK if you need to talk. That lifeline is a free, confidential hotline that is available to anyone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Text hello to 741-741. Those trained counselors will help you through any crisis. And also check with your local or county health agencies to see if they have a mobile crisis response team. Search for mobile crisis response team to see if there's one available in your area. For more information about this project, please visit us at totallygotoutofbed.com. That's one word. You can find other episodes there or look for us wherever you get your podcasts. And we'd like to hear from you. Please email us at totallygotoutofbed@gmail.com, visit our Facebook page, or find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
As always, we'd like to thank our team, our tech guru, Wendy Wolf, our composer and performer of our theme song, Hold My Hand Now, Monica Lavorsi, and a special thanks to Survivor Resources, the group that continues to support us and others in the wake of our tragedies. Thanks for listening today. Please join us for our next episode when we'll continue our series on getting through the first year. We're going to tackle the big question, where is God in all of this? We're both people of faith, and we know that's a big question for so many people. We'll talk about what that meant to us during the first year, and in the meantime, smile when you can, cry when you have to, and do totally try to get out of bed.
Hold my hand now. Hold my hand now. Hold my hand now and be as one. The colors start to fade. Gray is the only shade that you see now. Lost in the charade of the journeyman's parade, can't see a way out. As you keep marching onward, oh, all you gotta do is reach out and hold my hand now. Hold my hand now. Hold my hand now. Hold my hand now and be as one. Hold my hand now. Hold my hand. The tracks begin to sway. You're in the middle of the fray, so hold on tight now. Your grip begins to slip. You tumble towards the lip of the open train, and how? But before the world swallows you up, reach out, there's a place to